Welcome everybody to Forza Motorsport 7, and today we're taking a look at the 1967 Volkswagen Type 3 1600L. Now this is a car that was produced from 1961 to 1973, and more than 2.5 million were built. Now this is a car that diversified VW's range after the Type 1, which was the Beetle, Type 2, which was the bus, and Carman Gear were proved successful. Now this car is based on the Beetle's platform, but a couple of features set it apart from that car's reputation. Firstly, it had a subframe that had the transaxle and motor within, so it translated less vibrations through to the interior, making for a smoother and more comfortable ride, because less vibrations are always a good thing. And secondly, the engine, which was a lower profile than the VW Beetles, which meant that when in the rear end, because that's where the car is, the engine is, sorry, meant that you could have more luggage space, as you can see. So not only does it have a trunk at the back, but it has a trunk at the front, meaning this car is extremely practical, far more practical than the Beetle and Carman Gear. Now this car was available in 3 different models: the fastback, the squareback, and this notchback. Notchback being one of the rarer versions of this car. Apparently they're getting harder and harder to find. And quite frankly, I prefer this to the Beetle as far as I'm concerned. No, it's not as iconic, and it certainly didn't sell as well. Obviously this sold 2.5 million, which isn't bad, but the Beetle sold more than 20 million. So less successful car, but I personally think it's a more successful car in terms of how innovative it is, especially this engine, which, thanks to the fact it was as low profile as it was nicknamed the Pancake. And it's got 65 horsepower and 87 pounds-feet of torque, and it's 1.6 litres, and it's a flat 4 engine. And the car only weighs 2,116 pounds, so even though it is heavier than the Beetle and the Carman Gear, it does have more power to make up for it and more torque. So not too shabby in terms of power. And it's certainly the most powerful version of the first 3 Type Volkswagens. The Type 4 inevitably had more power than this, but that was also a bigger car than this, so I don't imagine it was all that much quicker. So yeah, interior is pretty basic, as you'd expect from a late 60s economic vehicle, but it's all there, it's everything that you need, and it's far more spacious than the Beetle, even if it isn't as uniquely styled. So we're going to take this car out onto the track and see what it can do. So see you when we get there. Right, we're at the Hockenheim National Circuit for 1 lap. So let's see what this pretty unique little vehicle can do. So yeah, it's easily one of the most powerful economy vehicles from the 60s on this game. And as a result, it's obviously one of the fastest, despite not being one of the lightest, because obviously the VW Beetle weighed less. It's about 300 pounds less than this car, and it obviously weighs far more than the likes of the Subaru 360 and Citroen 2CV, but it has way more power than both of those vehicles. It's got 32 more horsepower than the Citroen 2CV, and a full 40 horsepower more than the Subaru 360, so yeah, more practical than both of those cars, I'd say, considering this has 2 trunks and the Citroen 2CV only has 1 even, and even though it doesn't obviously have 4 doors like that Citroen, I'd say this is no less practical in terms of carrying 4 people at least, and obviously carrying those amount of people with all that extra power means obviously the car wouldn't be as slow. Nonetheless, it isn't exactly the fastest vehicle ever. Built to 60 in 18.082 seconds, and it can't do 100 miles an hour, but it can come pretty close, which is fairly impressive for a 65 horsepower car, as it can do 96 miles an hour, which is fairly impressive, to be honest, for a car with way less than 100 horsepower from the late 60s. So yeah, fairly impressive vehicle. Handles slightly better than the Beetle as well, even though it does have some mild understeer if you really push the vehicle. But yeah, better handling vehicle overall than the Beetle. Obviously it's more fun because it has more power, and it's a faster vehicle in general. So yeah, it's again like the Subaru 360, a car that I'd never heard of before. I really am kind of oblivious to some of Volkswagen's earlier iterations. Only really the Beetle and the Bus were cars that I really knew of, but this really completes the VW collection from the 60s, because now we have 4 cars from that era: Beetle, the Bus, the Common Gear, and now this. So yeah, I'm a bit of a completionist in some ways, so I'm kind of happy that this car's on here. And yeah, the fact that it is markedly different to the Beetle, not just in terms of power but in terms of handling and styling, makes up for you know, the fact that it is just based on a Beetle. But like I said, it's got a couple of neat features that set it apart from that car, and obviously the extra power does help in that regard. So yeah, overall a solid vehicle for Volkswagen, and obviously it was a big seller, and yeah, was unfortunately one of the last rear-wheel drive air-cooled engines that they made in a production vehicle, because soon after this they were making the Passat, which was front-wheel drive and water-cooled. But nonetheless, solid vehicle all around, and yeah, really glad it's on the game. Though personally, I do prefer the way the fastback looks. It looks a little bit cooler. This is still a nice looking vehicle nonetheless, and far better looking than the Beetle as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.